Hello there, nerds. It's me, Nega Jordan. It's high time that I got an episode all to myself without that sniveling doctor trying to fix everything. So before I stab out your eyeballs and feed you to my genetically enhanced dolphins, listen to this sick-ass monologue I wrote. About? As a stupid supervillain myself, I know we're prone to doing the same thing over and over again. We put diffusable countdown timers on our nukes, we build evil layers with air vents the size of subway tunnels, and we just can't stop letting ourselves get captured on purpose so that we can thrillingly escape later to murder the hero's mentor and provide him the necessary motivation to defeat us once and for all. But as a modern supervillain, it's important that I stay abreast of any brand new, still stupid, suddenly common wrinkles the villain union might add to the evil playbook. Such as... Okay, look, I get it. Superhero movies live and die on their ability to set up more superhero movies. I have friends more excited about what a movie points to in the future than what is actively projecting into their present, soon-to-be stabbed eyeballs. The story is an endlessly teased, perpetually arriving thing that only truly manifests once every 20 movies or so.
I am John C.
An important element of most of these movies is hyping up the eventual appearance of the one true big bad. The MCU fluffered us with brief scenes of Thanos sitting on a spaceship for years before he ever bothered to hop off the proverbial pot. And that was definitely cool the first time. It showed that Marvel had, like any self-respecting supervillain, some sort of plan for their series of films about young boys who squirt.
Oh, Parker.
But their dastardly schemes had the adverse effect of creating an entirely new tropey interaction that objectively freaking sucks. I'm referring to, of course, the supervillain performance review and check-in scene.
I bring news.
Whereas Thanos' initial teases were largely limited to end-credit sequences, later films like the Snyder Cut turned those brief, tantalizing morsels into a half-dozen full-on scenes where horny head helmet man pauses his quest to caress all the mommy cubes and initiates a scheduled Zoom meeting with his direct superior. We may not see them nail down specific goals for the Q4 advertising spending blitz, but we are forced to watch CGI monstrosities discuss the events we just watched, like the world's worst superhero movie podcast. And I know what you're about to say, but this show is different than that. It's very smart. Anyway, horny helmet man is all like, oh yeah, so totally grabbed a mother box from the Amazons, which was actually pretty easy since they literally brought bows and arrows to a laser gun fight, and I just wanted to check in and let you know that. And also, so now our plan is to acquire the second mother box. Of course, when that's completed, I'll check back in with an update for you. Of course, I want to make sure we're on the same page here. You know, synergy, B2B. Seriously, why would anybody want this? Why would anybody want to write this? The same thing happens with Arashim and various Eternals and the Eternals, and also the most recent Mortal Kombat movie where Sub-Zero frequently pauses or freezes his rampage so he can catch an overnight to Outworld and recap the various plot developments for Shang Tsung and audience members too stoned or bored or both to remember.
I am no longer Beyond. I am John C.
Even F9 constantly cuts back to Charlize Theron in her drum cage to ensure that she remains abreast of the developing situation. Those villains aren't even on her side, but it's the Fast series' clumsy attempt to cement their retcon about how all 3,000 movies have been building to just one supervillain.
Mr. F.
Movies that don't actively portray a thrilling enemy org chart still allude to one, like in spoiler for Matrix Resurrections, Trinity and Neo's threat to call the analysts bosses. It's a strange, petty threat made by essentially two gods who just finished punching off the analyst's jaw and slicing open his throat. But as they say, write what you know. And apparently everybody in Hollywood's greatest fear is their boss firing them and forcing them to scrounge for healthcare in the woods like a f***ing squirrel. America. The goal, clearly, is to nudge whatever series towards an inevitable I'll do it myself moment. After all, people flipped their shit. Thanos finally came down to Earth and murdered all the characters whose contracts were expiring. Like, oh no, the stakes are about to be even higher than they are. Steppenwolf was one thing, but now Darkseid, oh my god, Darkseid is historically kind of horny for Wonder Woman. That sounds like trouble with a capital T, that rhymes with P, and that stands for
Pussy.
Wonder Woman, huh?
Is she alone?
But there have to be other ways to tease future villains and fluffer us about conflicts that aren't here yet without bogging down our current escapist fantasies with tension-free Zoom calls between a genocidal space dolphin and his regional manager. What if instead, Steppenwolf nervously confided in a subordinate his fears that if he doesn't collect all the mama crates, Darkseid might come and do it himself? Darkseid, says the flying monkey bug thing. Why, he's an even bigger man than you! He is.
I will come.
Boom! Done. I just cut an hour from the Snyder Cut. Hire me, Warner Brothers. I've always wanted a brother that I could best in open combat.
I didn't touch a damn drum set!
Jordan must have trapped me in this genocidal space dolphin desert pit. Well, while I have you, did you know that 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35? That may sound like the dastardly plan of a bastardly villain, but apparently it's just life. Even more evil scheme sounding, once you go bald, you can never go back. It's like a space laser to the dome. And that's why you've got to be preventative and keeps the hair you've got. And that's the cool thing about Keeps. They'll set you up with a licensed doctor who will review your information online so you can get your hair treated without even going outside or even putting on pants. You'll never fall into a desert pit because they'll recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you specifically, and then your treatment is shipped directly to your door every 3 months. Best of all, Keeps offers generic versions of FDA-approved hair loss medications, which keeps things cheap so you can spend your money on more important things like capes and grappling hooks and, harpoon guns for dolphins.
Your time's up.
Also, because treatments usually take between 4 to 6 months to show results, the sooner you start, the sooner your luscious locks will be the envy of every Lex Luthor everywhere. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/cracked or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order to Keeps. Hopefully 100% of your hair. That's KEEPS.com/cracked. Sign up today and you can, unlike the evil version of me, be a full head of hair sporting hero. Also, speaking of brothers, Hollywood's been on a real relatable villains kick. Like literally, as in crapping out a bunch of villains directly related to the heroes by blood. Presumably because claiming that the genocidal space dolphin is also the hero's estranged sister hints at just enough sympathetic backstory for a spin-off Disney Plus show in case it become popular enough with audiences just thirsting for more dolphin combat.
Here we go.
Note that this does not apply to adoptive relationships. As my grandma always used to say, dolphins raised by somebody other than their biological dolphin parents are destined to want to wipe out an entire species or ethnicity and can never be redeemed. Man, she was a firecracker. The worst recent example is obviously Spectre, where Blofeld reveals that he's James Bond's adoptive brother. And he's just mad because Bond was the favorite child, which is why he's setting up a global spy network of satellites. Because he was not loved.
So thank you, cuckoo.
Apparently their shared father preferred rock-hard abs to Academy Award nominations, but what exactly do their previously unknown familial ties add to the story or stakes exactly? If anything, Blofeld's weirdly personal obsession with James retroactively implies that the agent was never in any real danger in any previous films because Blofeld's only real goal was enacting emotional revenge on Bond, like making him so sad. Similarly, the Transformers series revealed that Optimus and Megatron were brothers, only to later walk it back and claim, okay, actually, Megatron is adopted and can only be saved through the cleansing fire of endless Michael Bay. Or how about Credence Wormjizz and Fantastic Turfs and Where to Block Them? I don't even know if that's the character's real name or not, but I do know that he was raised by a non-biological family, forcing him, inevitably, into a one-track life of magically murdering shit. Occasionally, you'll get an irredeemable half-sibling like Ares and Wonder Woman, but half relations are still full evil according to screenwriters, and thus, they necessitate full death. It's another one of my grandmother's delightful idioms.
Not me.
Conversely, non-adoptive, much beefier brothers like Jay Cobb in F9 or genetically linked much cooler daddies like Shu Wen-Woo in Shang-Chi are destined to return to goodness at some point. I mean, there's not much chance a Marvel movie's gonna end with a hero being beaten to death by their daddy.
Leather daddy?
Oh, is there such a thing?
Unless He's an adoptive daddy, like Thanos, who hucks Gamora off a cliff and tortures Nebula by tearing her apart and tortures me with an impossible dream of one day tearing apart those pinchable purple CG butt cheeks. Loki is an adopted semi-exception in that he eventually becomes slightly less evil, but that's again only because he was popular enough for a spin-off show, and after a decade of having him dick around and backstab people, they had to take the character somewhere. Originally, his adoptive status was actually a sort of way to hand-wave why we should not care about him.
He's my brother.
He killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
And notice how even though each Star Wars centers on the conflict of essentially just one highly emotional and dysfunctional and incestual family with, all these evil uncles and shit, they always return to the light side after a brief excursion onto the side that rocks because thank the force Darth Vader was raised by his birth mom. And also...
Who was his father?
John C.
You could argue that Rey is related by blood to Palpatine, and yet he doesn't get redeemed, but also technically her dad is a clone of Palpatine, so in a sense they're not really related except through science and shit. So shut up, nerds.
I don't know why you always have to be judging me. Because I only believe in science.
But the real question here is, why do the villain and hero need to be connected at all? Even if they're not related by blood, almost every current supervillain encounters the hero prior to the events of the film we're watching. Like, we always learn that Iron Man inadvertently murdered the villain's parents or squished their lunch with an iron boot when they were 11 or whatever. But those backstories rarely add anything substantive to the actual plot other than, oh my god, now it's personal. Or I guess it was always personal, but they just revealed it, so now... we know it's personal.
I don't care. He killed my mom.
But there's a reason why Dark Knight Joker is largely recognized as a great villain. He and Batman have zero prior connection, yet Joker gloms onto the man who is a bat and just decides that they're two halves of the same mental illness. I don't want to you. That makes their ideological conflict legitimately interesting rather than just inevitable because Batman once dated Joker's mom and, did her from behind and now they have to fight.
I failed you. You trusted me.
And yet the very next movie reveals Bane isn't just a bad guy. He shares the same adoptive ninja daddy as Bruce. Does that make them practically adoptive siblings? Well, you know what that means. Bane and also Talia, they need to adopt Death.
Are you merely adopted?
Death. Imagine if every World War II movie revealed that Hitler was actually the tank commander's long-lost brother and or that, when they were kids, the commander accidentally shat in Hitler's vegan milk, which made him so sad he decided to invade Poland, as one does. Sometimes it's okay for a bad guy and good guy to meet for the first time on the day their ideologies oppose. That's a lesson I really want to impart upon my kids that are related to me by blood. The adopted ones, I'll just have to teach how to build nukes out of Legos.
Everything is awesome.
Speaking of skills, action movies always tend to focus on people sporting very particular sets of skills. Skills that are, by and large, superior to everybody else's sets of skills. It wouldn't be much fun if a skill-free Liam Neeson was shot to death 5 minutes into the movie that he's about to release this year, where he jizzed all over a hotel and had to fight people because of it.
I will find you. And I will you.
I mean, it would be kind of fun, but they probably wouldn't make very much money off that movie, and they probably won't anyway.
No.
So it kind of makes sense that villains would want to team up with these skillful guys, right? Like, why use a random plumber when the plumber down the street can fix your leak by stuffing the pipes full of the corpses of your enemies? From a writing perspective, the villain and the hero teaming up introduces the possibility of weighty, character-revealing choices for the hero and cements the villain's power. It's kind of like when a bad guy forces somebody to shave them with a straight razor. It's an ultimate power move paired with an efficient way to finish some chores.
Make it close.
And don't confuse this with a tepid join me and we'll rule the galaxy thing, since those scenes are always an appeal to the hero's logic, like, hey, I'm Darth Vader, and you're my son, and maybe you'd want to be king of the planets with me? No! I'm talking about basically forcing the hero to work with you or partnering in a specific task. Now, having laid all that foundation, it's dumb as shit. As talented as heroes may be, the majority of villains are supposed to get where they are usually by being smart. And if there's any, business thing I've learned in my years of admittedly not being that great at business, you never hire somebody who's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
For example, in John Wick 2, Santino forces an unwilling and historically very angry John Wick out of retirement again to murder Santino's sister for him. The implication seems to be that John is very talented and will be able to slaughter the sister without a hitch. And then Santino can just swoop in and kill Wick in retribution for the aforementioned slaughtering. Perfect crime. Even better, Wick already owes Santino for a past favor, which means Santino can cash in for basically free. Money up front.
Makes all the difference.
Couple issues though. One of the only reasons Wick doesn't murder Santino on the spot is because he owes Santino a favor. As soon as the favor is returned, Wick is legally cleared to shoot Santino in the penis and the butthole, or through the butthole out the penis. I don't know. John Wick is so talented. Secondly, if Wick is in fact as talented as everybody thinks he is at assassinating, then what makes Santino think that his assassins will be talented enough to take out Wick? Because here's the thing, assassinating Santino's sister is a piece of cake. I probably could have pulled it off. Wick was major overkill, no pun intended, and it directly and needlessly results in Santino's butthole to penis death.
What have you done?
But at least Wick is still objectively the best assassin. Why does Cypher feel the need to use Dom to steal God's eye? Because he's so good at driving? She has the ability to literally control all cars remotely. She only wants Dom so that she can, get back at him for thwarting her plans in the earlier films. Does she really think if he's so talented that she'll be able to constrain and control him forever? Another dude working for Cypher already tried this trick with Letty back in F6, and sure, Letty had lost her memory, but once they realized that she was Dom's girlfriend/wife, they should have just left her tied up in an Arby's bathroom.
Wrong team, bitch.
Obviously, at some point, she'd figure out a way to turn on them. There's no way that's worth however good she and Dom would be in a door-dashing competition. Is that a thing? A similar thing happens in Tenet. The mean Russian dude decides to not murder the protagonist and instead asks him to help steal a case of McGuffonium because, well, his name is the protagonist. But reverse time, backwards twists, the guy who had already once attempted to trick the villain tricks him again? What a butt! And there's nothing particularly special about the protagonist, and the Russian guy already has 1 million sub-Russians under his command. It's just pointless for villains to constantly employ OP heroes when they could easily do it themselves.
Then let me take your balls.
Shooting any and all good people in the head upon meeting them and then later figuring it out is just good business sense. Again, my grandma said that. I've escaped your desert pit full of genocidal space dolphins, and I've come to turn you in so that you may face a jury of your peers. Can I talk to my boss first? No. We're brothers? Nice try, but that doesn't absolve you of your crimes. Do you want a job? I'm really looking for a job right now. You're trapped in here with me, bitch!